Hi guys, this is my Seeley doing a commentary video for Napoleon Total War. I command the Prussians, and my opponent, CanuckCommander, is in charge of the Austrians. And I'm afraid this is a rather lengthy battle. It's 45 minutes, so there's going to be a lot of editing. At this moment, we are charging towards the top of this Prussian hill. Alright, well now I am firmly ensconced on top of the hill. Aside from a few artillery attacks, my opponent did little to opposed me as I took the top of the hill, and on my left we are starting the battle. He has advanced some skirmishers forward, and I am advancing my own in order to pick them off while they are out from his line infantry. And so I will attack with my skirmishers, and then on my far left I will bring my cavalry about to charge him and remove those units from the field. Back at my right flank, I'm receiving fire from my opponent and returning fire with my artillery, but I brought regular artillery to the fight, and as you can see, I failed to set them up correctly, and they are shooting straight into the hill, and they will be doing that for most of the rest of the battle. Back on the left, my cavalry charge in and will rout this unit. As I said before, this battle is quite lengthy with a lot of sitting around time, so we'll just be showing the moments of action during this fight. And as you can see, his skirmishers are now running. And they will flee from the field with my men at their backs. However, my opponent advanced his line infantry at this moment, and I decided to retreat my cavalry away to preserve their numbers. As you can see, I continue to take fire from my opponent's artillery, and I am heavily outmatched with artillery. He took out several guns in this team, and my other opposing team, due to my mistake, is firing continually into the hill. To remedy this, I have advanced my lancers on my right flank in a rather suicidal, glorious charge to take out his cavalry. These lancers will sweep in and will hopefully bypass his cavalry guarding his artillery, and they will knock out his pieces, thus making our fight a bit more equal, because at the moment he is just shelling me unmercilessly on the hill. And here we charge. He moves his cavalry to attack mine, but I am slowed up a bit by them, but half of my men continue on by and will take some artillery fire from my target, but that will not stop the great Prussian lancers, and they will charge forward to attack his artillery pieces. This was a bit of a, as I said, suicidal move. I didn't expect to receive these cavalry back, but I thought that their lives would be well spent if I could take out this artillery piece, and their great sacrifice would save many more men in the coming battle. And so here we are fighting among the artillery. You just watch men get shanked by their lances. It's quite glorious to see cavalry at work. And speaking of cavalry at work, his cavalry is attacking mine from the rear, and so I am rather hammered and anviled by my own design, but that was the point, was to remove these artillery, and it is working. I have taken out several men from each team, and at this moment he brought in his general to reinforce his artillerymen who were flagging. And speaking of flagging, my morale is in the red and dipping ever lower, and soon my lancers will rout. However, I believe I accomplished their use, as I have removed some of his artillerymen and less guns will be able to fire. Oh, and I routed one of his artillery units, but at the cost of my lancers, and so my brave, glorious lancers will rout. And finally, on my left flank, the opponent advances and starts to use his men in force. And so now we will have a shootout between my men, the 8th Life Regiment, and his 47th Czech Regiment. As you can see, his other men are forming into square because I have my cavalry set right in position to take advantage of any lack of attention. And speaking of lack of attention, this was lack of attention on my part, as I charged in knowing full well that he would be prepared, and I quickly realized my mistake and retreat my men. However, I had lost quite a few of their numbers during this ill-fated brief charge. However, my Life Regiment continues to fire on his Czech regiment, and since they are in square, they have limited ability to fire back, which is quite fortunate for myself. You can see their men are still in square and fearing more attacks by my cavalry. But this moment they break apart back into line and they will face me. However, they have weakened numbers. Oh, I suppose I should mention that although my opponent made absolutely no move to take the hill at the beginning of the fight, throughout the entire rest of the battle he made some pretty nasty comments about my apparent evil parentage and other aspects about my life, and insulted me viciously with swearing and other kind insults, including comments on my nationality and other niceties. So, although my opponent was a good tactical opponent, he was hardly the honorable opponent I expect when I play these games. I have now routed the remaining men on his extreme right, and we have moved my men forward to attack his center right flank, and we are having a fight in the trees here between his German Fusiliers and my musketmen. And we are continuing to see losses on both sides, but as I said earlier, he has numerical superiority, and so he is inflicting more damages than I am, which is rather a problem at this moment. Now my opponent has advanced, but sadly during his advance he was able to rout my entire left flank, and so I am just left with my center and my right, and they are valiantly fighting to resist my opponent's advance up the hill. He has not brought in his center as of yet, but he is advancing them slowly, and what I am left with is 2 foot guards on guarding my center, and on my now left flank I have 2 musketeer units fighting his Fusiliers. But he has his general in place, and mine is also in place, so it is the fight under the general's eyes, as we call it. But I have advanced my foot guards, and these elite units are pressing fire outwards on his German Fusiliers, and his men are taking casualties while mine are hardly suffering any. However, he also has another unit hidden in the forest here firing upwards at my men. But at the same time, his men on his right flank are advancing around this hill in order to press his numerical advantage. As I've mentioned several times, he has quite a heavy numerical advantage in this battle. And here we reach the conclusion of this fight. Surrounded on all sides, my remaining artillery pieces and my foot guards are forced to attack a ever encroaching enemy, and so they will charge to the rear to attack the forces that have brought up themselves on my rear. The Emperor's own regiment, an elite regiment, will face my foot guards. However, my men are quite depleted in numbers, and they are also out of ammunition, so all that is left to do is to bayonet charge and pray. And so we will fight to the death here on these Prussian hills. And yet it is not enough. His men continue to advance, and they will fire down on my men, and my artillery piece will rout, and shortly my foot guards will do the same. His men are firing into the mass. I'm not sure if that was a intelligent idea. I suppose it was on a gaming status, because he has far more men and he can afford to lose them. But if I was one of the Emperor's own regiment and some musketeer was firing into my ranks, I suppose that Emperor Francis might not approve. However, Emperor Francis is not present on this battlefield, and the foot guards are running. And this is the end of the battle. This is a victory for my opponent. And as I said earlier, I will not say good game to him for his quite vicious insults, but I will commend his tactics.